play the music, do a little cutting and pasting.
Very cool. Well, like the announcer says, let's get to the music. Why don't you play something for us?
Yeah, well, this is, during the pandemic, I just decided to put some things together, and this one is called The Writ of Habeas Corpuscle, because there's a lot of bloodletting in the writ of habeas corpus.
All right.
1, 2, 3. Oh
Yep.
my.
The old
Oh
zero BPM. That was good.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, ladies
Man.
and gentlemen, first I want to just say that this is my guest, uh, Michael O'Neill. Oh, John March sends his regards from Spain. He moved to Spain.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Wow.
and you guys have so many friends in common. He's not sure you really know him, but give Ronnie Foster a big hug. Tell him I'm also an old pal of Rev Dave's.
Oh my word. Wow. Hey, back at you, John. That's amazing. This world we live in,
I
right?
know, it's great. There's another guitarist too, Mark Baldrige, who is sending his regards too.
Oh my gosh. Hello, everyone who comes in. That's awesome. Hmm.
Well, that was great. First, let me just sing your praises a little bit. Um, First of all, actually, I think John Leftwich was the person who introduced me to you. He was the bassist in that video, and right, we didn't really know each other before, right?
No, I think he gave you my number. There, it was a gig and I wasn't able to make it, but you reached out to ask me about it. And then as we were assembling this trio and putting the music together, um, you know, uh, John obviously led me over to you because you have that wonderful relationship with the Kulaks Woodshed situation, and plus, just your whole sense of community in the jazz community, just like, you're a lightning rod.
That's cool. Thank you. Well, I'm going to sing your praises too because first and foremost, um, when I speak with you, I just feel a very similar uh, kind of a fat flow of connection and communication. I feel it. It's really, I don't feel that with everybody. I definitely feel that with you. And so even though we haven't spoken a lot before now, I know that we're on the same page, which is to me, obviously, a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
Also, as most people know who know me, I'm a guitar girl. I
Mhm.
love guitar. Some people love piano, some people love bass. I've been a guitar girl for so long, and the guitar is an incredible instrument to me when it's played well. And I've known so many really great players and seen seen their universe, and just been fascinated by it. Plus, I love to sing with guitar because I just love the way it feels and surrounds me and my voice. And when I heard you play finally, I was so blown away. Your your playing is so connected to who you are, which is this very earthy. I mean, this is just my point of view. Obviously,
Yeah.
lots of people would say whatever their point of view is, but to me, it's earthy, solid, musical, creative, fun. Um, yeah, it's just all of that, and really blows me away. It's really your playing is beautiful, and I'm sure the more I get to know you, I'm going to feel the same exact way about who you are as a person.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say. That's great. It feels great. When I was watching the video right now and kind of remembering a couple things I thought were is that I'm really glad that I can manage to most of the time really be in the moment
Yeah, yeah.
because I hate to have to go back and figure that stuff out. Let me tell you. It's you know with with the improvisation, I mean that it requires presence in that way,
Yeah.
and it's just and then also the fact that part of my background was in the athletics. I was I was into athletics really young on all sports, American sports.
Oh,
Big
at Poly?
At Poly, yes, I played in my 10th grade. In those days, it was like 10th, 11th, and 12th. Okay, so in 10th grade, I played on the B football team. And what happened was that year, I literally, some of the games at home, I'd play the game, the B football game before the varsity. And after our game, I'd go home and get my gear because I was playing at the dance afterwards at the school.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So then coming to the next year, something had to give. I mean, I was like, okay, football or music? It's like, hey, football hurts. I'm going with you. So, but anyway, I think the athletic thing really informs a certain, I don't know if the word is aggression or assertiveness
Yeah.
so much, but it's kind of like, jazz as a sport, full contact sport. I kind of, as you can see, I do physically kind of
Yeah.
the whole thing.
I do see that. Yeah. Um, just a funny aside, my husband was a runner at Poly.
Oh,
That was his thing. Yeah. Okay.
oh, wow.
So that aside, it's funny because I went to see this singer Roberta Gambarini the other night at Catalina's with Tamir Hendelman and Chuck Berghoff and Roy McCurdy. By the way, Chuck Berghoff and Roy McCurdy, 86 and 87.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. But Chuck even has a young child.
Yeah, and
And
his wife is probably, I don't even know if she's as old as I am. She
Julie, the harpist.
yeah, she might be in her 60s or late 60s or something. I don't know. But
Well,
yeah, so
Chuck went from that famous line, and these boots are made for walking, right?
yeah. And Roy McCurdy and I have been friends forever. I was married to my first husband, and Roy was like my spiritual guide at that moment. And he told me about his earlier marriage, which kind of sucked. And she didn't want him to play, and he had a
Oh,
chance to play with Cannonball, and she didn't want him to take that. And anyway, so listening to him made me feel like, oh, yeah, what am I doing in this marriage? Which was good. But anyway, what was I going to say? I was going to say,
well, you went
yeah,
into the Gambarini thing with
yeah.
with
So the thing, it made me think, there's so, of course, a million points of view as a musician, right? You can think however you think. You just said like the physicalness and assertiveness, and she actually sings like that. She's learned from a lot of bebop players. I mean that's her thing as a singer. She just totally immediately when she was young hooked on. Her mentors were, I think, Benny Golson and people like that, and how she sings. I was observing because it's different than how I sing. I'm a little more like waiting, not waiting, but there's space. I'm waiting to hear something that I can react to, and so it's a little more space inclusive of space.
right,
She is straight ahead. She knows what she wants. She's going and she's brilliant at it, and the musicians respond, and I mean everything's great, but it's a different point of view, and it's more instrumentalist like.
right,
I'm
sure,
just going straight ahead. This is what I'm doing. Let's create, you know.
right.
And that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
It is, and it's my nature. It's my sort of go-to nature, but um, an experience. Actually, the experience where I really got to know John Leftwich well was when he was musical director for Ricky Lee Jones.
Right.
And he recommended me for that. And it was all acoustic, a lot of like, American songbook stuff with, Ricky Lee Jones, who was like kind of like a white Billie Holiday,
Yeah.
like in her approach to
Yeah.
that stuff, like pretty amazing. And I had to really start to like get into the accompanying thing on nylon string guitar with her, a lot of times just her and I.
Yeah.
And and it was like that was like opened that side of things for me, where like what you're describing, how you're waiting, and it's like that call and response is back and forth, lead, follow,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
kind of thing. I and mostly you hear pianists are like, very typically, good ones are really good at that. So that was a really good door for me to walk through. And I quite enjoy doing that, putting that hat on as a complete contrast to, my other side that yeah,
That's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
I would like
It
to hear that. I wonder if there's anything like
You
that.
will. I think you will.
Yeah.
I think that's coming. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Got to.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ricky Lee Jones, and although I don't know a lot of her songs, but I'm a big fan. And when did you ever hear the Billy Child's Laura Nero project?
Oh yeah.
Ricky, she did,
Hmm.
been on a train. That was my favorite song on the record.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I mean, we know she had her past with addiction,
Yeah,
and then overcame that. By the time I worked with her, she had already been past that, but still the sort of artistic depth that, so, a lot of it is a dark place. But I mean, we hear that in like, that we're us that love jazz, that old kind of like smoky room, like that feeling of, that it it requires the individual to have had a fair amount of suffering
yeah,
to actually emote that, I think.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like what we were talking about before we came on, about the Buddhist and what, point of view of it encompasses everything, good, bad, everything is part of what's going on in our lives in the moment. And I read something about the moment. I think you'd like this. It was talking about time being the time that we've created is horizontal on a horizontal line, but in actuality, it's vertical. It's a moment. Here's a moment. Here's a moment. I mean, where we're really at. We're not on this. You could string it along, but really, we're in this moment right now.
Right. Well, and then that gets that when you open that door, then we start to get into that really expansive, like time space continuum conversation, which lasts forever. That conversation. So we won't start, that, yeah, there is no time, right? I mean,
Right.
and with some drummers I played with, there is no time. Right?
Why is
I-
that? It's really a shame, isn't it?
it's funny. One of the things I was thinking about, which is very interesting, was this. We discussed like the assertive approach, or
Yeah,
the sort of
yeah,
like wait and see approach, and kind
yeah.
of like a project I was involved in, which was pretty incredible, was um, a record which is a duet record with George Benson and Al Jarreau,
Oh,
and I call them the odd couple, because they were a good example of each of those points of view. Like Al would be, well, George, if we just like take this one measure and we kind of finesse it this way, you know, and George would be like, brother, we're just gonna go up there and kick butt.
And how did it work?
Fantastically. I mean, well, the two guys are just like,
Yeah,
icons, right?
yeah. I
I was,
remember. Oh, sorry.
no,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say that I remember. I never remember the guy's name, but I do remember the story. Um, he was a great stride player here in LA. You know, top guy. And I don't know why I just can never remember his name. But anyway, um, I was on a gig. It was a casual, and there were two sets, and the first set I was intimidated. I was young and I was trying to fit the pianist's style, and I couldn't because it's not the kind of singer I am. So during the break, I was kind of suffering over it, and then I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'll just sing, sing how I sing. Magic. Magic occurred because I was doing what I do the best, and he was doing what he did the best, and that's the gorgeousness of what we do. We can meet in this universe if we're truly doing what we do. And Al Jarreau and George Benson, I'm sure we're doing that, right?
Yes, exactly. That's a good parallel you'd give. And Al was so kind of like a poet, his lyric writing and his approach. And some funny things would happen. I remember we were playing at the Kansas City Jazz Festival, which really has a very strong blues component to it, aside from the ribs that we got to eat. But anyway, like I remember they're playing the show and George like starts to dig into this like country type stuff, like country bluesy stuff. And Al literally says on the mic, damn, George, where are you from? Tupelo? Yeah, it's just fantastic. But yeah, that was we did that about a year and a half or so, that combined project. And
So, what was your involvement in that project?
well, I played guitar with both of them, and then there would be there was a combined group at the
Yeah.
time, and it was Al's um, drummer and keyboard player Larry Williams,
Okay.
uh, piano player, and
Yeah.
Joe Turano was playing second keyboard and sax and vocals. I was doing vocals as well. So I did the entire show, both artists and then both artists together. Um, Matter of fact, what precluded it is they were doing the album. It's called "Giving It Up,"
Oh,
and so the title track. I was on tour with George in France, and the record company sent a communication out that they wanted George and myself to go in the studio. He needed to do his guitar solo, and I needed rhythm guitars on this title track.
yeah.
So we go in the studio, literally these promoters set it up in the town of Beaujolais, like
Okay.
Beaujolais wine, like
Yeah.
literally in that town.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, so we're up there and so George, I'm producing his vocal. I'm uncredited, but basically I produced his vocal. Finishes his vocal. He comes into the booth. I put on a couple of passes of rhythm guitar. And then I say, hey man, your guitar's out you're ready for your solo. Your guitar's out there in the hall. I'll go get it. He goes, brother, let me see yours. Grab, it's my guitar, which is like it's not a like a jazz hollow body guitar. It's a solid body, with bending and everything. And he proceeds to play a nasty solo with that thing. Oh my God. It's still George Benson, but there's something different, he's here.
Wow.
So he takes that first take and I go, "Hey, man, you want to do another pass?" He goes, "Oh no." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because they'll choose the wrong one." And you know what? There, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
like taking his fate into his own hand,
yeah.
you know? So anyway,
You worked with George, and you still do, right? For how long?
oh God, since 1981.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And the first question is, who does that?
I know.
It's like artists like to change their band more than they change their underwear. So it's like, wow. It's he's very family oriented kind of a person, and plus, I mean, for me, it's like that's probably the only guitar player I would have like stood behind for that length of time. Because guess what? I kept learning. I all just still, whether it's the musical information or life information, like we're like wisdom, like everywhere, wisdom, you know. So, like one story he told, this one is so simple, but I love it. He says one day, there'll never be another Wes Montgomery. And I go, why? He goes, because of his strap. Strap on the guitar. Well, he had one of those old kind of like Western like leather straps, which had the like this sort of cottony kind of like soft stuff over the shoulder, and it would wrap up around the head of the guitar, and he had it real tight. It would be here like on his belly, real tight. And when Wes would go through all these like chord things, like really fast chord things
Yeah,
up and down, it wouldn't move. But George equated it and like it's like trying to play a piano. It would be like trying to play a piano that's moving. No,
yeah,
you're chasing it.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like and also the thing is he's the ultimate storyteller. When he's telling you this thing, there's sound effects, fa- facial things, and you're entertained. It's really entertaining and funny. But then you stop and go, oh, wait a minute, there was a lesson there.
Right. Wow. That's really cool to hear. Uh, I actually remember uh, what's the room? What's the room on Sunset Boulevard? The big room, um,
Roxy?
the Roxy.
Yeah.
It was the first time George sang in public, and it was a gig that was shared by Al Jarreau. Al was the opening act. George was there, and he sang. And I remember that literally you could hear the women sighing when he started singing. You could hear, uh, just, and he truly had a gorgeous voice. It was like, I mean, I didn't listen to him sing over the years that followed, but that that night was, I remember it because it was distinctive. And I loved Al Jarreau. I knew Al a bit because I worked with his wife at Dante's. We were waitresses, and when they
You
got
were at Dante?
yes, yes, and when they got married, I went to their marriage. It was in Topanga Canyon, and so I knew Al, and I loved his singing, of course, too. So,
Did you ever go hear him over like at the Blah Blah Cafe? Yeah, yeah,
absolutely,
of
yeah,
course. yeah, those days. I
Those days
mean,
are good. Yeah.
with Tom Canning early on,
Yes. Yep.
and then Joe Carrero, I think, played
Yes.
some drums.
Joe Carrero.
Did you pick up the spoons remember when he used to have the audience participation where you,
No, I don't think I did that. The
yeah,
Blah Blah Cafe. Now there was that was a cool place. So many people. I played there, and Shelby Flint. That was like her home for a long time. Did you know her,
right,
Shelby?
sure. I
Yeah.
played with Shelby with Greg Carucas.
Oh, oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah, I've done some stuff with her. Yeah, she's a special singer.
Very special.
Yeah,
Very
beautiful.
special.
Yeah. So you went to, okay, the rock. I know what I wanted to say was that you said that was the first time, George, that you perceived George singing publicly. The fact of the matter is he had sung since he was a kid. And when he got on to, and some of his early records, like he sang on, but when he got to CTI, Creed Taylor Records, they would not let him sing. You are a jazz guitarist on our label. Okay. So the minute he was done, got out of that contract and was signed to Warner Brothers,
Oh,
that first record where Tommy LaPuma and Al Schmidt, you know, produced and engineered that record. Um, the record's only 6 songs.
oh,
That Reason album's only 6 songs. And the one vocal was This Masquerade.
oh.
Okay, so what it is that, George just probably was like, raring to break out of the corral, you know, and finally,
Yeah.
that was it. I remember hearing it for the first time. I was driving in my car and I'm going like, I'm hearing the vocal. I'm going, God, is this Stevie Wonder or Donny Hathaway? And then I started hearing the scat solo. I'm like, oh my God, this is too much.
Apparently, it was the real thing because look what it did. That song. So, wow.
Yeah. Well, you know who wrote it, right?
Um. No.
It's Leon Russell.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. Okay. Right. I remember now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And George, like when Tommy brought it to him, Tommy LaPuma, who that was one of his talents is being able to recognize, repertoire,
Yeah.
have a vision in that way. And George is like, what, brother? Man, I don't understand. I don't get this. And well, try it, George. You'll try it, And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, it happened.
Interesting. Yeah. Tommy LaPuma. I'd like to do a little more research on him because, I mean, of course, his name was all over everything. But now that you say that, he he must have had a huge amount of successful creations, right?
Sure, sure. Well, I mean, and um, the funny thing is, was from Cleveland,
Yeah.
and he was a barber,
Oh,
but he played alto sax, so he was a lover of jazz. So he had, he was a fan, like so not a great musician. I mean, he
yeah,
played
yeah.
sax, but
Huh.
was such an appreciator in that. I mean, we talk about like a lot of times different types of producing. It's like, you can have a great musician, arranger, composer that's, producing, but that doesn't mean that they're doing the greatest job. I mean, a lot of times you can work with producers that are just like, they're like the ultimate fan that can hear like the regular Joes, how music comes into a regular person.
Yeah,
And it's huge value because they're the ones that are buying this stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
I, yeah, yeah. Well, and fast forward years later, Tommy produced Diana Krall.
I know. I was just thinking about that. Yeah, and I knew her. She was my piano player here.
Really?
Yeah, I knew her through a singer pianist named Carol Welsman, who's from
Oh,
Canada.
sure. I know Carol.
Yeah. And so, yeah, because Diana was like, she was Diana's mentor. And so, and then
Uh,
Diana ended up here. She was singing and playing piano, but she was working as a pianist, So, yeah, she accompanied me on a bunch of gigs. And then Tommy LaPuma.
yeah.
Wow, what a brilliant recognition.
That's
Maybe,
right. She is Canadian, isn't she?
yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. Um, I have a question from a guitarist friend of mine who comes on here. He goes to North Texas. Knowing that you've toured so much over the years, which gig did you find to be the most memorable to you?
Which gig? Oh my God.
That might be a hard question, Taylor.
It is difficult. There are a lot. There are a lot. You know, I mean, whew, the when we played with George in, like, I think it was 84, 85, maybe, they were just starting this brand new festival down in Rio de Janeiro called Rock in Rio. And it has, it has since expanded, like, it's still going on now. And now it encompasses, like they have a whole big multi-stage venue, sort of similar to the North Sea Jazz Festival. But
Yeah.
back then, they just had one big outdoor location in this natural setting, like where the mountains were in the background and the ocean were, we could see the ocean past the audience. And it was a very eclectic festival in that they had jazz art. I remember also Al Jarreau was there. Then they had pop artists, James Taylor. They had the best Brazilian artists, Yvonne Lins, Gilberto Gil, Javan. And then rock artists like Rod Stewart.
Oh.
They had like God, AC/DC, I think, was even there. It was like crazy. But the thing about it is we went on like at like I think we had to play twice. I think we went on like 2:30 in the morning, and there were 300,000 people there. Nobody left, and they're singing lyrics. They're all singing the songs.
Of course they are. That's what they do. It's amazing, huh?
Yeah. So that was pretty memorable, and probably another one I'd have to say. We were in South Africa, and this was in like the early '80s. We were playing mostly Sun City, which was a fabricated zone, a casino environment. But then we went out to real South Africa, into Cape Town. This big public show in a big arena, and um, we find out that there's all these people traveling with us, and it turns out that there was a bunch of security guys that under their jackets had all kinds of, stuff, right? Well, it turned out that we this time we were playing for all of the races, all colors, right? And so we're doing the greatest love of all. And literally the whole place, the lighters went up, like in the middle of it. I literally broke down in tears because it wasn't set. There was this energy that was just like outrageous, like kind of an energy, everything combined about it. But we found out later that um, some of these security people were literally instructed, if anything broke out with the masses in there, to shoot and kill George. because that figurehead, it was like, you know, and at the time, Mandela was in prison in Robben Island still.
Oh,
So, it was.
wow.
Well,
That's pretty heavy. You know, it's kind of a stupid idea, though, too, because especially with, I mean, they should have known better if Mandela was in prison and he was like a martyr. If they shot
yeah,
and killed George, he would have been a martyr, and the whole thing that they were trying to get away from would have been built up, you know. But
yeah,
that's pretty scary. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So that, in terms of being like beyond just like, like an incredible musical experience, is that's just an example of playing music and it carrying me into situations in the world that are profound.
yeah.
And the exposure to this kind of stuff is like, you
Yeah.
know, wow.
Yeah. You can't. Yeah.
First of all, I
Deep.
couldn't afford the business class seat that they flew me down on. Okay, or the hotel I stayed
Hey, I'm going to play. Should I continue playing Zero BPM, the next song, or should I pick something else?
Well, what do you have?
Well, I can actually go anywhere. I'm going to
Well,
share the
well,
screen. And
well, oh, okay. My shirt looks pretty good on 0 ppm, huh?
it does, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really nice concert, actually, and we get to really hear you. But
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
can go somewhere else too.
yeah. Um, you know what would be cool? What's interesting is Ronnie Foster um, at Maxan Jazz. I don't know if that Maxan Jazz. Let's see. I'm going to tell you which one. Oh yeah, you got it. Let's see. Uh, like, okay, if you can scroll down a little bit. Let's see, where don't they have it? Let's see. No, I guess go back up. I'm looking to see which one. Um, hmm, if you put in swing up behind jazz, might be good. Let's see if they. Wow, I guess I didn't put it in there. Well,
Was Swing the name of the tune or no?
it was a swing tune, and I know they had it up there that way. But you could also put um, um well, swinging is a pretty good this reboot. Yeah, that's from the record we did on Blue Note.
Okay, now, so this is just sound. This is not audio, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's just audio. Yeah, and I've been doing it. Something I'm currently doing with Ronnie. Well, if you want video too, you can go back up and we did the title track reboot.
Okay.
It's a different side of things. It's a little more funky fusiony, but
Yeah. Okay, we may not go for the full 9 minutes, but we'll start.
no, let's not. That's too long.
I have a question. That was really cool, very cool. I don't know if you know, do you know Carrie Frank, the B3 player in town?
Sure, sure. I know Terry.
Sometimes he has some really cool organ trios that happen that are great.
Oh yeah, he has all kinds of incarnations.
He's a very good player, isn't he?
Very good. Yeah, Ronnie. That particular track is one of the more a little rockier,
Yeah.
funkier things from the record. But Ronnie, truth be told, was like a complete disciple of Jimmy Smith. Started studying and hanging with Jimmy Smith when he was 12 years old.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And I mean, he's like, like from the point of view of like when we do these shows and the records, there will be a couple of things that are a nod to like that tradition.
Yeah.
The organ trio, jazz, blues tradition, swing, straight ahead stuff. But he just like he writes all kinds of stuff all over the place. We're getting ready to do a second record for Blue Note. And it's pretty cool because Don is the executive producer.
Yeah.
So he came out to our show at the Baked Potato when we did it after the first record. Super nice guy, and really knowledgeable. I mean, I just saw, and this I recommend to everyone who's listening right now, if you haven't seen it, on Amazon Prime Video, the docuseries, 3-part docuseries of Wayne Shorter.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Gravity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don, them interviewing Don in there, I like what he had to say in there. He showed, how much he really is in depth into jazz.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really great. By the way, I finally last night saw the American Symphony. Wow.
No,
John
wait.
John Batiste.
Oh, wait, American Symphony.
It's a documentary on John, and
Oh,
but he wrote this piece called the American Symphony, which it showed the rehearsals and the writing and a little bit of the performance, but basically it was a documentary about him. His wife has leukemia. I don't even know if she's passed or not at this point, but it's very, he stopped working on the Colbert show to take care of her, and just, I mean, it was right up close and personal all the way through the movie, and interesting artist, really amazing. I have to say, he's amazing. But yeah, the Wayne Shorter series is really amazing, and
the way his what made him tick, all of that early childhood,
yeah,
the imagination, what the things that went into, like, which incredible.
I just got this book called The War of Art, who I can't remember who suggested it to me, but I started reading it last night, and it's talking about who we're at war with is what he calls resistance, which he he deems as evil, and but all the things, procrastination and all the things that stop you from doing what you really want to do, the creativity, the stuff that makes you feel good, whatever it is, that's resistance, and it's really cool because it makes it simple, it's like, oh, yeah.
The war of art. You mean like having to make a living?
No, the thing that stops you from being what God would like you to be. Anything that stops you, your considerations, like, I mean, it's not making a living. It's you come home from work, you're tired, you should practice, but you're tired and you want to watch TV.
Right.
That's resistance,
Yeah, and also another one that comes to mind for me is like, you should be playing like this,
Yeah.
as opposed to, like you say, authentically doing what you feel.
Yes.
right? Yeah.
That's actually John Batiste talked about that in his early years. Everybody was telling him not to do what he was doing. He went to Juilliard and they hated what he was doing because he was creating. He was from New Orleans, and he just immediately created a band, and he was playing on subways and out in the streets, and they hated that. You know,
Right. Well, yeah,
and
Juilliard. Yeah.
yeah.
At least put on a suit when you go do that. What's funny, I was that you bring this up, the Juilliard thing, because when we were watching the last video as well, and I was thinking about um, my quest for, you know, infinity in improv. That's really what I'm after. It's like infinity. Just go and my probably biggest uh, inspiration for that today is the guy that taught at Juilliard for 17 years. One of my favorite guitar players in the world, Rodney Jones.
Huh. I
And
don't
he
know him.
yeah, yeah. He does, Rodney is incredible. He has Facebook, he does a lot of this Facebook Live stuff where he's just sitting in his office with his jazz guitar, hollow body, running a track and like playing. He does it like almost every day. And the guy, well, he taught Jean Baptiste was one of his students.
Okay.
Juilliard. They're 17 years. But anyway, Rodney, I had to give him, I gave him a nickname. I call him Buzz Lightyear. Because it's to infinity and beyond.
God, you know what? You're reminding me of Taziki Taziki Munoz.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not familiar.
Tazici. Wait, I'm saying his name wrong. Let me just check. You have to check this guy out if you want. Yeah, Taziki something. Shoot. Let me get the right spelling. No, that's not it, apparently. Munoz. Let me try Munoz. How I heard of him, Munoz. Shoot. Tzatziki. I'm gonna have to look it up. Taziki Munoz. I feel like that's his name. Roland, do you remember me talking about this guy? Tazici. Anyway, I'm gonna have to remind myself to do that for you because
That I would appreciate it because now you got me intrigued here.
oh, let's see. That's not how I wasn't spelling it right. I don't think. Okay, Tiziji. That's what it
I,
says.
I,
But
I'm spell-
okay, Tiszi.
okay. JI.
And his last name is Munoz, Munoz.
Yeah, so he's a built-in geopolitical war. Like, how many continents are involved there?
I know. Let me tell you quickly about him. Bob Moses. You're familiar with Bob Moses?
Sure.
Okay, so Bob Moses, I interviewed, and he was talking about Taziji, I think his name is, as being his mentor spiritually and musically. And Taziji is a guitarist and a percussion player from Puerto Rico, I think. And he is to infinity. And I've heard different styles that he's played. Like he'll play, he'll go within one song from, hardcore rock, jazz, infinity to back to like intimate, beautiful, very interesting guy. I think you would find him very interesting.
Wow. So it's
And
like no rules. So
yeah,
like yeah.
and apparently very well known, has played with a lot of top players, but he's not a household name for sure. But you know, Bobby is. Thanks, Roland. Yeah. So I think you're. I think you'll thank me for turning you on to him.
I appreciate it. I'm always looking for something out of the box that's gonna like wake me up again, to like the excitement of all this, you know,
Yeah.
which leads to the fact that I mean you know, it's I think about this often because I scour YouTube quite a bit when I find like some of these younger musicians, and it's the phenomenon, it's evolution and it's natural where the bar keeps going up, at least the technical bar.
Yeah.
And that there's a delineation that has to be expressed with that, I think, is that you have all these like young kids that are like, 12 years old that their parents didn't tell them you can't do that. And they're like, oh my God, playing amazing by themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the next step is can they play well with others? So, and that's another whole side. And then when they can play well with others, are they or do they have the ability to like really dig in like you know on a big spirit level. So there's all these kind of components, right, that go into the whole picture. But I am amazed at, the abilities of some of these like young kids. And then also, um, one of the things that is a go-to search I do a lot is from being around George, being that he's a jazz icon on guitar, and he's well loved by the Django Reinhardt Gypsy jazz community. And we've played at that Django festival a couple times.
Oh,
I've got to be around like those young gypsy jazz guitar players. Oh my God, the chops and the facility is just like it's astounding.
mm,
And I've befriended a few of them. So um, and the one who I think is still the top of the heap today, I finally got to go meet and hang out with recently, but Borelli Legrand.
uh-huh.
And you know, so anyway, it's like it's another world away from you know uh, our American jazz,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I'm amazed that these guys, I feel like bowing down in worship, but but I'm finding out that because of my involvement with George and stuff, is that it turns out these guys are aware of me as well. So it's like, okay, it's time to show up and hang.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just kind of whatever you like. I got the blues. I mean, I started with the blues, so I'm American.
Hey, speaking of your American, and by the way, Gary Meek says hi.
Oh,
Um,
hey, Carrie.
and hi, Joyce. Um, I hear you have some Mexican roots.
Oh my God, are you accusing me of that? Did somebody tell you to do that to me? Hey, with a name like Garcia, you ought to know better.
I know people. That's why I always felt safe to travel. Siegel might make it dangerous, but Garcia, you know.
Garcia is it's still accepted in the Gaza. Anyway, leave that one alone. Yes, I am. I'm half Mexican, and the great thing there is that my godfather, who I'm named after, was a very famous musician in Mexico City
Oh,
and was a co-founder of the very first ever trio folklorico from Mexico, which
wow.
is that thing we see, the guys with three guitars, sombreros, and serapes.
Yes.
That format, my godfather invented with his two partners in the trio.
When was that? What years were that?
That was actually in the 30s, late 30s and they were called Trio Calaveras, which means the three skull heads. And in my, and I'm pretty sure it probably has something to do with Dia de los Muertos,
Yes.
the three skull heads.
Sound-
And yeah, so they did over like 50 albums, and
Wow.
they appeared on the Disney production of The Three Caballeros,
Oh,
which is they did a song in that. But nonetheless, as a little guy, they
yeah.
would come to LA, and I was real close to my grandparents, and my grandmother was Miguel Bermejo, who I'm named after. It was her brother.
Oh,
Yeah, so they would come and stay for a week, and they would perform at the $1 Million Theater in downtown LA.
the $1 Million Theater.
$1 Million Theater, yeah. And they'd have all these parties, with music and food, and I'd be around like 3 years old, like taking all this in. And I'm told that they would put me up on a table to do my Elvis impression. Hound dog. I did that.
That's too funny, man. Hey,
So
I want to share a quick aside. So I told you earlier, I think earlier maybe, I can't remember. Anyway, my first mother-in-law was a bolero singer.
Right.
And this is Joey Heredia's mother. I just want to show you this picture.
But her name was Garcia, you say, right?
Adelina Garcia.
Adelina Garcia, okay.
This was her.
Oh my God. Wow. Wow.
You can actually see Joey in her.
Yes. Yes. I can. And I can see the gangster Joey in her.
Yeah, really beautiful and gorgeous voice. Really beautiful.
Really? Wow. Did you say Adelina? Did you say
Yeah.
Adelina?
Yes, Adelina.
Adelina Garcia. I'm gonna have to check that out. Yeah, Joey. I've done a lot of stuff with Joey over the years, and wow, he's a special one. He, goes up with the motorcycle. Hey, I cut you with my blade, man.
I'm gonna go see him at the Baked Potato with forget who is playing with him. You probably
Joey Navarro.
Yeah, Joey Navarro.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Joey Heredia is a great player, and early on I think it was like in maybe 1990, I'm going to say, we're a quartet. We played with Freddie Ravel on his very first record, and I'm still doing a lot of stuff with Freddie.
Oh.
But the band was with Joey on drums and Jimmy Earl, the bass player, myself, and so yeah,
That was a good band.
it was a good band. Yeah.
You remember Joey's gig with Freddie? Was it with Freddie? It was that guy at Lavalley. They did it like for 2 years or every week.
Marco Mendoza.
Yeah. I mean,
I know.
aside from the volume, because it was like this one loud volume, but aside from that, it was frigging brilliant. That trio. And Marco was an amazing singer and player, and wow. That was
Right. The good old Lavalley days.
Yeah, yeah,
That was one of those rooms that had a warmth,
yeah.
it had a warmth. And then also, I saw the keyboard player recently was in town from Brazil, Renato Neto.
Oh, yeah, that's his name. Yes.
Yeah, he's living back in Brazil now. His parents
Oh.
are aged God, I'm forgetting the name of the city. The two main cities, there's Rio and Sao Paulo. He's in Sao
Yeah.
Paulo.
Wow.
So,
He was a great player.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and ended up out there with Prince.
Uh, I don't remember that. Interesting. I have some questions here. Um, let's see. Roland was saying he remembered Steve Allen, who was self-taught pianist, having the opinion of a classical player not attempting to play jazz, or a jazz player not attempting to play classical, but those that dared came up with innovative music. Yeah, and
Wow.
Taylor as a guitar player. Let's see. Taylor, you have so many questions. I think I'm gonna go for this one. And it reminds, yeah, I have a guitar question too, but ask his first. As you've worked on practicing guitar over the years, what kind of things have you always gone back to for either inspiration or just broadening your flexibility on the instrument?
Well, um, first of all, the main go-to right away is the blues.
Hmm.
The blues. And not necessarily that it's specifically like on the nose, it's the blues.
Yeah,
What the blues means to me in the bigger picture is the connection of my gut to every note. A committal, a breath, a breathing. The notes are the notes, but what we breathe into them, the energy we breathe into them, is the power of the notes, and that's where the blues made that connection for me. So that's kind of like the first and foremost thing is to remember who's priority. What's the priority? The technical or the expression? And at the end of the day, it's expression. Um, and is the listener, does it penetrate into the listener's world?
yeah,
And I think, and what that does for me, slows me down. I'm kind of speedy. I'm a speedy guy. I've been around George Benson, one of the best to ever do it for a long time. It's, I can hear rapid fire stuff, but I mean, remember to try and build a story.
yeah. Well, especially for guitar.
Mhm.
I always tell my students about this. I think it's the Groove record of Schofield, and he's playing with Charlie Hayden, and probably Bill Stewart. But so there's this song. He takes a guitar like a guitar solo. Got a lot of notes in it, but it's great. It's John Schofield, and and then Charlie Hayden takes a solo. What does he play? He plays whole notes. Whole notes. And it's perfect. It's the perfect continuation. It's just perfect. So yeah, I always used to say, I had a jam session for a long time. And what was so intriguing, and I would tell students this, no matter what level the singer, you could be the most beginning level of singer, but I can hear you if you're listening to the band. If you're listening to the band, it's music. If you're not listening to the band, it's not music. I don't care how good a singer you are. But if you can sing ba and that's it, but you're listening, all of a sudden there's a universe that everybody is creating in together that comes forth, and that's the shit.
Wow. Yeah. Perspective. There's a big perspective right there. Yeah. That's pretty amazing. But the other thing that you just mentioned about the Charlie Hayden uh, aspect of that with Schofield is that Charlie Hayden is also known for playing the slowest of all tempos perfectly. And what that leads to, if you think it through, is another big thing that I've learned over the years, and actually it's an ongoing challenge, is playing the full value of the notes.
Oh,
Because that's the
love
space.
that. Wait, I
That's the
have to write
space.
that down. Keep talking, but I have to write that down. The full value of the notes. Man,
Yeah.
that's a good comment.
Like, did you actually play a quarter note?
Yeah.
You know, and as it turns out, I mean, when you break it down, is that there's a difference that when you actually play the full value of it, there's a beauty. It's the right space is achieved in that.
It's the truth.
It's the truth. So help me God. I don't have a Bible nearby, but
It is the truth. That's why it's so it's what you just described. That's what it is.
yeah. And
Truth.
I listened, um, I think one of the first times I think I really noticed that was like from a drummer, actually. The way he was playing his like toms and stuff, and it was Steve Gadd.
Oh,
And it was just like, what is it about? Why does this feel so damn good? Well, it's like he's honoring all the note values. And it's like, ooh, it expands, you know?
this kind of leads me into my question, which is it may be a technical question, but I feel like it's also a perspective question. So, one of the things you learn about over the years, especially as a leader person putting bands together, is guitar players and piano players. You got to watch who you're putting together. And you have to kind of consult them, and do they like playing with this other person, or is their perspective the same? Because that's a lot of chords to get in each other's ways, I guess you can say. But so I was watching you play with Ronnie, and I was contemplating how you were comping for him as he was soloing. So my question is, do you have a perspective? I'm sure you've had different perspectives over the years of the proper way to comp, and proper, does the musician you're playing with like it? Do you like it? Is it working? It kind of touches on what we were talking about before with singers and Ricky Lee Jones, and as a duo as opposed to playing with Ronnie Foster.
Like, let me count the ways.
Yeah.
It's, oh my God. It's, this is where customization, I mean, is the order of the day for that. I mean, fortunately, I'm mostly self-taught, and I did study some music theory and basics at Los Angeles Valley College. But the one teacher that I lessons from turned out to be like unbelievable. The infamous Ted Green. And Ted Green was, I mean, all that and a bag of potato chips and some dip to go with it.
That's good. I like that
Oh my
description of
God. And so,
it.
yeah, and Ted was so thorough with his analysis of the instrument
Yes.
and gave you such a great way to organize your stuff, where like you would have to practice triads on the different groups of strings. Like, start with your first three, just the first high three, now the middle three, now the lower three. So you separated out ranges. So this way you had all of this stuff under your fingers and in your ear that you could apply to each situation and make an assessment about your role. If there's a keyboard player and maybe two keyboard players, sometimes, um, where on the neck, what range are you gonna cover that's not being covered? And how are you gonna do that? I mean, is you gonna ring out chords? You're gonna play muted picking things? You're gonna do a counter line? I mean, assessment is like super important when it comes to playing with a keyboard player. It's really crucial, as you expressed in your question. Your brow curled when you're concerned for it. Appropriate. Yeah, like train wrecks. Like, guitar players like, hey, I got all six strings, man. Bam. Whoa. Okay, well, not so much.
You
No.
know, Josh Nelson and Larry Coons have, they have this love affair of playing together, and we made a record called Dreamsville, which they just, it's really a beautiful relationship. It's really beautiful. It's beautiful sounds, And you have to say, with them particularly, that their personalities allow for that too, because they're both very loving, kind of space, giving of space type of people. So that I can see. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting area, and I mean, I just imagine that it's just part of the growth of being a musician, being a guitar player, being a piano player. I mean, it's all part of it, over the years.
That's
And
right. That's right.
as you said, let me count the ways.
There's so many. And by the way, I mean, Larry and Josh happen to be individually badasses,
Yeah.
great musicians. Um, Matter of fact, I worked with Josh for many years with Natalie Cole.
Oh.
Did a lot of playing together. And actually, I was there. I had played before he came in. I played a lot with Terry Trotter,
Oh.
who was
Wow.
unbelievable player.
Yeah.
And but Josh was coming in, like, sort of auditioning. They had him and well, they needed, like, she wanted some kind of depth of a roster of people that could, we in the business, so and so's not available. You got number two, number three, whatever.
Yeah.
At the same time, the same day, I'll never forget. In walked Josh Nelson and John Prue. What's not to like there?
Yeah.
So, but Josh and I hit it off really well for all that period of time. He's got a fantastic sense of humor. We were always riffing on craziness. Uh,
Yeah.
it was a joy. It was a real joy there. But
Yeah.
now this whole thing about playing with others too. Now this new trio I have, it's actually the first project I've done as a trio with
Oh.
no keyboard. So I dig it from the perspective of kind of can't make mistakes.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I make a lot of mistakes, but then I do it again, and then I do it a third time, like Miles told me to. You know what? You follow? I mean, it's like,
Yeah, absolutely.
and so now what's happened is that I've kind of always had a little bit of fascination with inside and outside playing both. Coltrane ruined me with that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Michael Brecker took it and went, to the moon with it. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
I love that kind of playing because I especially like it a lot of times on when it's just one chord. It's like a static one chord. And I always felt like, how can I make this, like, it's a groove and it's a vamp, but it's just one chord. How can I make this be interesting? You know, So that's kind of like the quest I've been on with this trio a lot is just like going for it all the way. Just don't care anymore.
I love it.
So forgive me in advance.
I love it. And I also love guitar trio. I love that. I love singing with that. I mean, it's kind of heaven for me. I was doing a few gigs with Mitchell Long and Leftwich and Joey De Leon on percussion. I That was
Whoa.
so great. I loved that. You know,
Yes.
it's
And
really fun.
yeah, and you mentioned John Leftwich, who's a mutual friend of both of us. We're both pretty close with him. And so when I decided to do this record, and I just realized, man, John's just like the perfect uh, guy for this thing. And man, his contributions to this project is, I mean, I can't,
Yeah,
you know, thank him enough for it, what he's done. He's a great producer in his own right.
a
And
great producer. Yep.
so you get that element, perspective, like a big picture view. Um, and when all of us, that have done this for a long time, kind of come from that kind of a space where our contribution to any situation is informed by the big picture.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
leads to more tasteful playing.
Yeah. 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 Um, I should also give you a. I made a DVD and a CD of me and Ted.
Wait, Ted Green?
Yes.
No way, Jose. Really?
I'll have to give you that. Yeah, I was like one of the only singers he played with in his, I guess later years, 20 years or something. And when I went to Berkeley, I knew about him because Berkeley was small at the time and it was mostly guitar players. So, of course, Ted Green was talked about. Then I came to LA and I actually met him when I was working at Dante's. He fainted in Dante's. That's how I met him. And I didn't realize he wasn't playing out very much. And so I said, "Oh, you want to get together and play?" And he said, "Okay." And then I got us a gig at the Sound Room, the old
Oh
Sound.
yeah, the sound room. I remember the sound
And
room.
that was my first kind of real, really good gig in LA. And I showed up and there was no standing room because of Ted, obviously, not me. Nobody knew who I was. And anyway, we played together for a few years. Then he took a break. Then we played again, like about 22 years ago, something like that. And we did a gig at Rocco's. Remember Rocco's?
Sure. Uh-huh.
And we did just kind of basically a home video on it, but it was good. It was really a good night. So I
I
have
gotta
that
check.
video,
Good.
and then
Yeah.
earlier audio stuff that we had done. So I'll have to give you that.
Please, please. That's amazing. I mean, that's fantastic because, I mean, like, and some of the stuff you're saying, it so much reminded me of his personality. His like meekness. He had this humility and a
Oh,
meekness,
yeah, yeah,
almost to a fault, actually, almost to a
definitely.
fault, to
Yeah,
where he was kind of like teetering on social misfit.
yeah.
Because I'll never forget the first lesson I went to him on. He was staying in the back, like it was like converted garage at his parents' house.
Oh, wow, that was early.
Yeah, so I go in there and like he had on like some like t-shirt and the sleeves were too short. Not and they weren't cut off, they were just too short. He's wearing like desert boots.
Yes, that was so Ted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely him.
So I go in there, and he's got this like it's like a wood box kind of like filing cabinet with like all these categories of pages that he had developed, because I think I had already bought his first book, Chord Chemistry.
Yes.
Um, and so, but I go in there, and the first thing he does, he gives me this one sheet, which is like a sheet of like 25 categories. And he says, well, choose few categories that you want to focus on, right? So I think I choose like solo guitar, trio, and quartet kind of playing, right? So he takes that and starts to pull out all these pages and makes me my own custom book, Ted Green book. Okay. So it's like starting right there. It's like, what? Okay. So now, 6 months later, I had gone in there and, incredible stuff. But I was on my way to a lesson, this before cell phones. My head was going to explode. So I got off the freeway, got onto a phone booth and said, Ted, I'm done, man. I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry. Because it's so intense, so deep. And I was a young working musician. I mean, I was playing in bands around town, making barely making a basic living, and I just didn't have the time to dedicate myself the way he had a few students that were kind of like wanting to be clones
Yeah.
of him, and they were like, really good at it too. But I benefited like just amazingly from the 6 months I studied with him. And every time I sit down, his stuff is there. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I organize things. It's like so much came from that time period. Um,
That's beautiful.
yeah. Now another guy, this happened to me a bit later, but I was and this was a friend of his too, another freak on the guitar like him.
Yeah.
I was playing in the house band at Josephina's, and on Monday nights, people like
Josephine, was that when the Tower of Power guys were playing?
It was on Woodman and Ventura Boulevard.
Yeah, yeah. There's a whole period of Tower of Power jam guys or
Well, it was like a lot of Rufus, and but I was there. The house band. I mean, one of the other guys, the bass player was Bobby Watson from
yeah,
Rufus.
yeah, yeah.
Guy from Chicago, and Rufus would come in a lot. But anyway, one night we're playing, and this little short guy comes walking up to me, because everyone, when they were new to town, they heard about the jam, Monday night jam there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So this short guy comes up, man, do you mind if I sit on your guitar? Oh, yeah, sure. It turned out to be Lenny Bro. Man, he tore my guitar up. It was unbelievable, So I had heard of him, but here he was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lenny Bro, man.
And Lenny, I'm told that he grew up, his dad was like, I had this favorite record of these two guitarists. And Lenny grew up and he learned it all thinking it was one guitarist.
Ah, well, even though if it's not true, it's a funny story.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really, that's funny, man. That's really funny.
well, and as you know, since you worked with Ted, like you did, his solo playing. Oh my God!
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's so I'll tell you more about. We'll talk again, and I'll tell you some TED stories. But yeah, it's he was a kind, humble, genius guy who didn't think of himself as a genius, and yeah, I used to say, "Why don't you play out more?" And he'd say, "Kath, because everybody thinks, they expect so much of me. It's like that I'm not. It's like, yeah,
It's kind of more like you expect a lot of yourself.
yeah,
Because push to the level that you've gotten to, that's an inside job, bro. Sorry.
yeah, yeah,
That's, none of the rest of us are doing that.
yeah,
We don't even know what that territory looks like.
yeah, yeah.
I remember in one of his books too, he had a great sense of humor. There was these like chord voicings he had that were like, ooh, man, those hurt. And he goes, well, he says, don't worry about it. Just keep practicing because you'll develop this webbing.
He told me that he called that first book Chord Frankenstein. He, he called it in later years, I think he thought it was just too much, or even him, he thought.
Oh, yeah. When I tell certain guitar players that I meet or happen upon for talking and stuff, when I tell them that I studied with Ted, it's always like, oh my God, what? Like you actually did. Yeah. And you know who led me to him was Dan Sawyer.
Huh. Yeah.
I believe I told you Dan was my high school mentor.
Yes, you did tell me that.
Mhm. And did I tell you about the gig I went to with him, where he was the musical director at 19 years old at Santa Monica Civic for an artist named Bobby V.
Oh,
Bobby V. So I go with him, I tag along, and the show's going to start, and they had it was kind of like a stage band, like a small big band in a sense.
yeah.
And they had the stage was hydraulic, so that it was down, you know. So they start the show, the music starts up, and the stage is coming up, and there's 19-year-old Dan Sawyer wearing this like American flag shirt up there conducting.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, John Balbuena is here. He sends his love.
oh, John. Do you know John at all?
I do know John. Not super, super well, but we've played together and hung out. And yeah.
We go back to junior high together.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Known each other for ages.
Well, I can see that because he's kind of like you, kind of organic, great
Mhm.
player, straight ahead person. Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Toby Simmons says hello too.
Oh, Toby.
And
I
Pat
heard
Kelly. Hi, Pat.
Pat. Hey, Pat, what's up? Man, Pat. Man, we go way, way, way back. Um, I've met Toby just recently from the write-off room.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I just heard, sadly, that they were ramping back to just weekend nights.
The write-off room?
Yeah,
Wow. I'm
what I
surprised.
just heard. Yeah, that's kind of rough, but that's a beautiful room.
It's a very nice room. I'm glad that they put it there. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess everybody's money doesn't last forever, but, you know, because they supported a lot of people with the old one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's rough. I mean, have you ever gone to see the Deductibles over there?
You know, I think I saw them at the old write-off room.
Ah,
Yeah,
right. So
yeah,
that's a fun situation.
yeah, totally fun. It's great. Um, Taylor wants to know what's your favorite chord.
Taylor. Who's Taylor? Taylor who? Taylor
Taylor,
Swift?
Taylor, Taylor's the guitar player friend of mine who goes to North Texas.
Well, it's a toss-up between um, uh, an E demented 29th, and a G confused Donato.
Yeah.
So actually, I'll tell you the truth. I'll be less ridiculous. And this is Ted Green speaking through me too. I like these three-way chords, the enharmonic equivalents, so that if you have let me make sure I get this right. If you have a E minor 6, no, G minor 6, it's equal to an E minor 7 flat 5 and to a C9. Three chords in one. It's true. And then that little bit of knowledge opens up so much when it comes to improvisation. Like, you're on a chord and you can think of it from these three angles as a startup point of view, in terms of arpeggiating it, outlining the harmony, like to be accurately outlining the harmony. Those three chords are, they're the same.
Yeah.
Taylor, it's one of these things I would normally say don't try it at home, but I think you should.
He's a pretty good player, and he is at North Texas, so.
Well, then he yes is. I wonder if he plays in the 1 o'clock band or any of the bands, because
I
they.
think he does, but Taylor, do tell. He's on a little slight vacation right now. He was just walking around the Cal Arts campus.
Oh, yeah. Well, the North Texas State has certainly produced a lot of great music. That's for sure. I know my friend, great guitarist Dean Parks.
Yeah.
Well, Dean played in the 1 o'clock band out there, but not guitar. He played saxophone in the 1 o'clock band and played guitar in another one, in another band, big band.
That's funny. That's
Dean,
wild. Yeah, I don't know how those guys, like Dan Sawyer, plays great sax, right? Great sax. Tom Rainier, brilliant piano and brilliant sax player.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now you know Randy Waldman.
Yes.
Okay, now Randy, sometimes I refer to Randy as my agent.
And that's nice.
Because musical director that got me on George Benson's gig.
Huh.
He's the musical director that got me on Barbra Streisand's gig.
Wow.
And he keeps, calling me for things even today. So, but anyway, Randy, we did something years ago together because we like to cut it up and be cool. And I used to have this voice as the union rep, like, hey, are your dues paid 20 years in advance? Like this. So we wrote a tune called the Union Dues Blues together. And Randy created an entire big band himself.
Was this last year?
No. This is
Oh.
like the early 80s. This was the early 80s.
Because he was doing some video stuff like that.
Well, that was Superhero. That's the record Superheroes, which I was all big part of that too.
Okay.
Yeah. But this thing we did years ago, he creates this big band. He played everything. All of it. Drums. He had a acoustic piano, but I think he generated like upright bass on the keyboard. Borrowed Dave Boreff's saxophones for a weekend and learned enough on them to do all the sax parts. He plays trumpet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so he did the whole, oh my God.
We used to be friends like years and years ago when I was young, coming up, you know. And he had that house over in North Hollywood, and yeah, that was forever. Then he moved up. He got some good gig, moved up, and then zoom, really
Yeah. Well,
popular person.
that house there is where we did the Union Dues Blues
Oh,
and the North Hollywood house. And there's a great story about that house that he told me recently.
yeah,
It,
there was a story about that house. I can't remember what it is.
okay, his dad was a construction contractor. Okay. So we used to do sessions. Like I remember doing being up in the rafters, up in the attic. It was a big attic, like you could stand up in it. And Jimmy Johnson, the bass player, and I were up in there. We were doing a session with Randy. And so Randy wanted to kind of like open it up more in there. So he told his dad, well, I want to take those beams out. They're in the way. And his dad goes, I don't think that's a good idea. It's like, that's supporting the whole thing. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. Okay. He did it. One night,
Uh-oh.
huge crash, and the whole thing came down.
Oh, wow. That was not the story I was expecting. And I forget. I thought there was like a story about that house too. I feel like someone told me about it, but I don't remember. That was kind of like, remember Mike Lang?
Yeah, of course.
So the house that he ended up living in with his wife and his kid, um, they bought that house at some point, and he felt he really liked the house. He felt very attracted to it. He found out that it was the house that he was raised in as a child, but he didn't know it.
Wow.
Yeah, it just kind of came around, like got sold to somebody else, and he grew up somewhere else then, and then later when he had a wife, and they were. That's pretty weird.
Wow.
Yeah,
Boy, that's great. Boy, was he incredible.
yeah,
What a wonderful player he was.
yeah. He was great. Yeah,
Good
we're
thing.
so lucky to have so many great people around and players and good people. That was another question I was going to ask you actually. Um, this kind of sounds like a, oh gee, kind of question, but I still want to ask it. Knowing what you said about George Benson and yourself and how long you've been working with George and why, which for those of you who have come on later, basically he was saying that they've been working together for 50, 40,
40 plus.
40 plus years, and partly because George is like a family kind of a guy, and he, obviously they like each other, they're comfortable with each other. And I mean, you don't work together with somebody for so long otherwise. But in general, how I'm not sure of the exact question. Kind of how important is it to be a cool person, like a normal, warm human in situations that you may be or you are hired by somebody with a lot of height, you know. You know what I'm asking?
I totally know what you're asking, and um, super important. Top of the list. Top of the list. I mean, yeah, good, really good question too, especially for people, aspiring people to
Yeah.
know. Even, it's like, yeah, you have to be able to uh, know your craft. That's a given, or you won't even be considered in a situation. You gotta have a certain degree of facility to do it, right?
Yeah.
But beyond that, I mean, when you're out there spending, a long periods of time with people, I mean, you better be easy to get along with.
Yeah.
And if you really want to hang long, make it fun. Have fun together. I mean, this is your family away from home.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard enough to be away. You're away from your loved one. You're away from your comfort zone, your sanctuary, home. Yeah, so I mean, the more you can kind of be embrace each other out there, and that's holds true to be in town as well,
Yeah.
not just out on the road. I mean, when we're working together, I mean, nobody wants a gray cloud in the room,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you know this and have experienced all of it. Uh, we like it to be fun. I mean, this is a huge part of who we end up wanting to work with.
Yeah. Definitely. My first husband, Gus Garcia, when I started working a lot, I worked at the $2 bills for like 2 or 3 years every week, and they offered $5 in a meal to each musician. So it was sometimes difficult getting musicians to play, and I was young in town and didn't know a lot of people at that point. I learned really quickly who said, "Oh no, there's no way I'm going to play for that," and people who said, "Yeah, okay." And but yeah, it's the Gus used to. At first, I was trying to fit people together for their musical style, and he said that's not really important. he said put them together for their personalities.
Wow.
And he ended up being right.
Yeah, you have to create a joyous environment.
Yeah.
It's good. I like what you said about the $5 and the meal, because that whole template holds true today, of course.
Yeah.
If you like doing things and you really like to, you're a doer of things, then you like to align yourself with other doers of things, and people, like that want to show up because maybe there's a mutual interest in something, where we can find another way to continue doing what we love, music, and the outlets can be unexpected. Like for myself, I about a decade ago, I started to get into the film scoring and TV composing. I would have never imagined myself getting into that. So now that segued into, I became a co-producer of 2 documentaries. I have a production partner, and now I'm writing my own documentary for the first time. I didn't write those. I co-produced and did the scoring, but now I'm writing something for a documentary short.
Wow.
My own initial. I'm initializing this. So, is there money in that? Last time I checked, I'm not Spielberg. But I do have a cool story that I'm going to tell, and I'm like way into it, and so it's that, right? I mean, us as artists, I mean, we get a passion or something that hits us, and we have to do it.
Yeah. I was just speaking for the last three or 4 years. I've actually gone to the Small Business Association and SCORE. It's called SCORE, and you can get mentors for free.
Wow.
And I've met them I have two guys once a month for the last 3 years, and really cool. I always walk away with at least one gem of inspiration, and they were both in regular type of businesses, so I get their points of view, and they're intrigued by my life and what I do and have done, and I still find it fascinating. Anyway, today I had a meeting this morning, and so I have to think about this more before I say a lot of it, but it had to do with what you were just talking about, the reasons why we're doing. Oh, I know what it was. Because my life has shifted all of a sudden. Right now, for several months, I've been desiring to kind of empty out, slow down mentally and physically, and get some space and see what that feels like and what is left there without me doing, because I get into that, right? And so we were discussing that, and I don't feel worried about it. I feel very, but it's interesting. Like, for the first time in forever, I don't have a bunch of gigs lined up until I have my first real gig is in March, and so, and it's just interesting. It's intriguing, and I know that I created it. Absolutely, I know I created it. So I'm just kind of sitting here and looking around and seeing, trying to be observant, trying to clean up any loose ends, and so, but the reason that it's obviously what you just said. We do it because we love it. We do it because we want to heal the world. We do it, whatever. There's lots of great artist reasons why we do it. Money is usually last on the list, especially with how CDs have become basically coasters,
Mm-hmm.
And so, so today I walked away with sitting down and thinking about the things that I'm interested in doing and what are the reasons. And it doesn't have to be, money in the hand. It doesn't have to be a serious outcome. It could be just because I like doing it, But I'm intrigued now to think about what are my reasons,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. It kind of like what I was thinking about when you were talking about this whole process you're going through right now of like clearing out, and in these big auto races they have pit stops, recalibrations. Okay, where am I?
Yeah.
What's what do I feel about all this stuff right now? Right? I think it's really important.
I mean, what you just described of yourself going through film scoring, and what was you said film scoring, and besides you're producing,
television, yeah, and then producing film also.
yeah, and now writing a documentary.
That part is like, so what do I do? So I scour the internet, I Google, how to format a short documentary. And I look at this things, and I find New York Film School website, and I find a fantastic page of like kind of steps to take to do that. So I save that page and I start my format. It's like, okay. I'm gonna do it. I'll give this away. I'll give this away only because I make a commitment to myself. I'll put it on the record.
Okay.
I'll tell you what it's about. For my many times of going to and performing at the New Orleans Jazz Festival, every time I've gone, I've taken a lot of videos and photos, and I've interviewed people down there, and I love it. It's my favorite, probably my favorite U.S. city, and I think it's the best version of the American melting pot.
Yeah.
So this is going to be New Orleans through my eyes.
What? Say that again?
New Orleans through my eyes.
Oh, okay.
That's not the title, but that's the vibe.
Yeah.
That's what the project is.
I think it has a high interest.
I do too. It's pretty colorful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to have fun with it. I mean, it's a I've been thinking about it for 5 years. But that's my New Year's resolution. And so far, I have a huge budget.
That's good. Um,
Anyway, so that's that.
well, that's cool. And it's been 2 hours.
Really? What a fun hang.
Isn't it fun? People always say that at the end of the 2 hours. It's been 2 hours, really?
That's great. You're fun to talk to.
Thanks.
You really are. And I think
When is your birthday?
I'm February 8th.
Okay.
How about you?
I was just curious if you were a Gemini. May 28th.
May 28th. Is it you Gemini?
Yeah, but I think we're the same age, though. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kind of like if I were to say pop, pop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is, you'd probably get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So there's all that fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
We
Well,
could-
what should people, you want to tell people what to look for in the near future from you?
Well, yeah. Well, for one thing is that first of all, I just want to thank you for the invitation to do this
Thank
today,
you.
Cathy. It's been really great, really great. And I have the live at BPM, 0 BPM stuff you played that was a track from my new record. So I did a studio recording of it with the same guys, John Leftwich and Lan Richards, and not released yet. I'm kind of figuring out how I want to roll things out with that. You mentioned CDs. Well, who am I going to sell them to?
Yeah.
There's that. Anyway, I'm in the process of working out how I'm going to do that, and so, but that's something to look for.
Yeah.
I have this new recording project coming out, My Colonial Trio, and it will see the light of day in one way, shape, or form in the not too distant future. And then I intend to get out and take it on the road. And by the road, I mean 20 miles down the road.
Okay.
Various establishments that'll put up with me.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
thanks. It was really a pleasure to get to. I'm sure it's just an inch of, what we could talk about. Are you going to the NAMM show?
I am. Are you?
I am, and the last few years I haven't gone so much because, I'm not an instrumentalist, and the volume sound is just, the cacophony is very tiresome to me. But this year, I was asked to be interviewed by NAM's library for oral history.
Wow,
Yeah, so I'm going to be
cool.
interviewed and I'll be there, so I'm just going to, of course, hang out.
That's awesome. In my experience, it's always better when you have like when you're asked to do a task there. I
Yeah, I
believe
think so.
it's better. I mean, I used to play there. Ronnie Foster, the organist, we used to do a duo there for for over a decade. We,
Really?
yeah, we did it for like CAD microphones and then Shure microphones. Ronnie had created like tracks like with drums and bass, and he wasn't doing it on organ, he was doing it on piano,
Oh,
and I would play guitar. And I mean, we for a decade we were doing it, wearing it out, working every time. And
wow.
I met my microphone collection came from those people.
Oh,
Um, and
wow, cool.
so this year I'm not I have no work to do there, but I it'll probably be the same. I had to make confessions last time there to people. I said, I did not look at one piece of gear here. I come here for the people.
It's true. The schmoozing is really great.
Yeah. And
I
I,
I worked there one year. Can't remember how long. It was a while back for EV, who is a mic that I am sponsored with. But I had for all the days I worked with different guitar players, just duo because they wanted to show this. At that time, it was a jazz. It was good. It was they don't care about that anymore, really. Like these jazz moments of beautiful microphone, and but I did it with all these different guitar players.
you were in heaven. You were in Nam
I
heaven.
was in heaven.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's I do like I'm going to go Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday I like it's quieter. It's you can actually maybe if you see something you can talk to some people in the company. It's easier. Saturday I go for the freak show. I love to see all the genres of musicians in full regalia.
That's so true. Oh God. Brian
Yeah.
Charette. Do you know him?
I
Brian.
played with Brian once.
Yeah, he's going to be at Hammond.
Oh,
Yes,
perfect. I'll
he'll be
definitely
playing
go.
there. Yeah, me too. I like Brian.
You know how I ended up playing with him one night?
Oh,
It's one of those things again, when you're just out and about, you show up. Um, there's that place 1881 over there in Pasadena that Joel Taylor does the
yeah.
Friday night booking and Jimmy Brantley does the Wednesdays, right?
Yep.
So I had been playing with some young, I call them the Jazz Lions. They're in their 30s, young guys I know out here, real great players.
Yeah.
And looking at this place called the Montreux Cafe in Azusa.
Ah,
Is this like a 7 to 9 gig? It's like from where I live, it's kind of like halfway to Pasadena. So I would
yeah.
often just bolt from there and go over to 1881. So I get over there one night and Brian Charette's in town playing with Joel and Doug Webb.
Yeah.
And Joel and I are old friends. He goes, "Hey man, you got your stuff?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Bring it in." So I ended up playing the whole night with those guys.
That's so cool. Well, he's playing there again. Let me see. Let me tell you when, if I can find it quickly. Let's see. Where is it? Oh, oh yeah, the 24th, a Wednesday.
Of January,
Yeah, he's playing at the 1881.
the day before the start of NAMM. Cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
You're gonna go. You gonna go?
Yes, I am.
Well, I'll probably go.
Yeah, I think that's going to be fun to see him there. Perfect.
That place. I mean, there again. There's another place that's like it's a damn dive. It's dark. It's neighborhood. Probably a fair amount of drunks in there. But the way it's taken off as a music venue coming out of the pandemic, you know?
I know. It's a really cool hang. Yeah. I actually played there with Joel. He invited me. I think I was the only singer he asked, and I felt like a rock star. It was with Otmaro and forget the bass player's name. I felt, and it was funny because Joel, I think he expected me to do standards or something in the beginning. He was playing like real kind of, standardy. And then the more I brought out the different music, the more he got crazy. But it was fun. We had a
Well,
good
it was like the night at the fundraiser at Kulak's that night when I talked to you afterwards, that song you did,
yeah.
and it was this, but it turned out to be the Elton John thing, and it was like, I was like, what is I love that. I have a couple twists. I have a twist on my new record,
You do?
just like that. And what you know what it is? It's Smoke on the Water and Beyond.
Oh. Wait, so and beyond, wait, did you write something that is or arranged?
I put in a 16 bar, like almost a B section that's a little like it's a release, a blowing release before it goes back into it's just it's funky. It's like Wes. It's a Wes kind of thing. But
Wow.
it's like I didn't even plan it out. I was just here on the couch one night and I was like, wait a minute. And there's been covers of Smoke on the Water, but they're all kind of resembling the dun dun dun
Yeah.
dun dun, dun, but it it plays really well in this setting I have it in.
Wow. I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, it's fun.
I love
When
that.
you send me email me that stuff you promised to send me about Ted.
Yeah. Yep. I will.
And when you do, I will send back on your email a link to my album.
Okay, cool. Great. Okay.
Go.
And
Awesome.
Roland's going to buy for you he'll buy whatever you put it out on. You'll be 3 cents richer, and so
Beautiful. That almost makes me feel like I can leave Spotify.
almost.
Awesome. Well, it's been a ball, Cathy.
Thank you. Loved hanging. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
same here. And so if I don't see you before, I'm going to look for your email, and then I'm up the 24th.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. Thanks.
Bye,
Appreciate it.
man. Have a great
Bye.
night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Oh, everybody, just one more thing. I'm starting to do this every week now. So next Wednesday, you might be interested in this too. Next Wednesday, the 17th, I'm interviewing Alan Abrams, do you know him?
Would Alan Abrams of the Flying Jib fame?
I don't know, but he's a manager. He's been a A&R guy. That guy?
Yeah. He used to,
Flying Jib?
yeah, there was the club, the giant Flying Jib that he had a hand in years ago.
Oh, I have to ask him about that.
Pretty sure it's the same guy.
He's like he managed Les McCann for years, and anyway,
Who we just lost.
I know. Yeah. So I know. Wednesday, January 17th. So that's my next guest. So, Michael,
Cool.
thank you so much. And by the way, you were number 563.
You know what? What I like about that is if it were the draft, I'd be home free. Because when the real draft happened, I was number 347.
Oh, but not close enough.
Well, that was great. I mean, because they start with number one.
Yeah.
347? Done.
All right, man.
All right.
Thanks.
Be good.